CLAPS.
I know, right? I mean, I have to say, Karen Dupiche, our wonderful, one of our wonderful makeup artists, when the earthquake was happening, she put her coat on and she was like, Jesus is coming.
I'm out.
I'm out. I'm leaving. We've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway.
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't...
Welcome back to All-Star Buzz. Thank you for joining us. Let's dive right in. Greg Gutfeld has never been one to hold back, but this time he absolutely went for the kill. In what can only be described as a complete takedown, he put Sunny, Hostin on blast, leaving The View scrambling for damage control. The moment was brutal, the fallout was immediate, and the repercussions? Let's just say ABC executives were sent into a full-blown panic.
I know, right? I mean, I have to say, Karen Dupiche, our wonderful, one of our wonderful makeup artists, when the earthquake was happening, she put her coat on and she was like, Jesus is coming.
I'm out.
I'm out. I'm leaving. We've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway.
The rapture is here.
The rapture's here. And then also I learned that the cicadas are coming. Cicadas.
Although I love
for the first time in like
No,
100 years, but for the first time in many, many years.
No,
And
every 17 years this happens.
Well, that's not what I read, but maybe, maybe you know better. All those things together would maybe lead one to believe that, either climate change exists or something is really going on.
returning.
Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's underground. It can't.
It happens, and the eclipse, they've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses happen, and they actually can say when these things are going to happen.
All because one host failed to fact-check before spilling the beans on live TV. It all started with The View panel diving into one of their favorite topics, identity politics and historical grievances. As always, Sunny Hostin seized the moment to remind the audience of America's past sins, doubling down on her usual rhetoric about systemic racism, holding people accountable for their ancestors' actions, and making broad, sweeping claims about privilege. But here's where things got really interesting. Gutfeld, never one to miss an opportunity, fired back with a brutal quip. We won't be seeing that.
That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years. They're turning on me. So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by The View's gravitational pull. All right, Kat, did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart ones.
Oh, so you know what? Whoopi, she thought like either the Nazis thought the Jews were a race or were in a race. I'm not sure what she thought. And I thought, this new one was Sunny, pretty dumb. And then Joey Behar in her own echo chamber. I'm going to say the dumbest people who still watch the show.
Yes.
The whole audience clapped
The
by the
studio audience.
Whoopi, though.
She's funny, right?
No.
Oh, okay. I was trying to find some kind of redeeming thing to say about The View. You could see right through me.
Well, at least Joy and Whoopi were fact-checking this time around. That was surprising, a pleasant one.
Yeah, it was. We won't be seeing.
Sunny Hostin rarely takes the time to fact-check her statements, and when she does, it's a rare occurrence. With a smirk, Gutfeld leaned in and delivered what would become the moment of the night. He reminded Sunny that, according to recent revelations, her own ancestors were slave owners. The audience gasped. Even Joy Behar, who almost always backs up Sunny's every word, looked visibly uncomfortable. And Whoopi? For once, she was speechless.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took the news. Roll it.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
You could see Sunny caught off guard, trying to brush it off as just a fact of life. But the interviewer wasn't letting it slide, and neither was Gutfeld. He wasted no time in calling out the glaring hypocrisy.
Lou, is this karma or what?
Well, first, I just want to go on the record to let everyone know that I am very much against slavery. Very brave to say that on this panel. Karma, definitely. I mean, it's one thing. It's going to be so awkward on new episodes of The View when she tries to pull the race card.
Yes.
And then she's like, America is racist, and then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner racist. like somebody that we.
That's so true. Oh, I'm gonna milk this till the end of time. You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm gonna go, slave owner! Kat, I just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because they had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. You think? No?
I don't know. I feel like.
He pointed out how she built her platform on holding others accountable for the past. Yet, when faced with her own uncomfortable history, she suddenly wanted to move on. The irony was impossible to ignore. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, Gutfeld delivered another brutal punchline.
She is shaming descendants of this. Will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny. She is so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
For me, the most shocking thing about the conversation was how truly boring it was. They're like, well, the cicadas, they're cicadas. Okay, but it was like every 100 years. No, it's every 17 years. Do you know how many Emmys this show has? 31.
31 Emmys?
This show has 31. I mean, I'd hate to see the conversations that don't make headlines. What?
And we don't have a single
Not a
Emmy.
single
You don't
one.
Have what does that tell you about the Emmys, Kat? Yes, thank you, Mr. Boo. Give that man a free cup of water. Charlie,
She's so wrapped up in identity politics, she didn't even know who she was, Gutfeld quipped. The audience burst into laughter, and the internet went into a frenzy. Within minutes, clips of the exchange went viral, with social media erupting in reactions. Memes flooded Twitter and TikTok, and one of the most popular jokes simply read, reparations.
Right, like what is the show prep? They just go, go! Is that the pre-show? Like, what was that? I didn't realize until Kat started talking that all happened on the air. Yeah. I thought it was just like a behind-the-scenes disaster.
A blooper.
Yeah, that was crazy. And we can disagree, Greg. You say cicada.
Let me write that check to myself real quick. The hypocrisy was just too blatant to ignore. And the ratings? Well, let's just say the outrage was rising, but the viewership wasn't. Sunny, of course, didn't take the roasting well. The tension on the View set was palpable.
It'd be so close.
What's the chart? Have you ever been on The View?
I have many. I think when was Barbara
Walters?
Was she still on it back then?
Yeah, she was on it even after she died.
I remember I was on The View, and I don't know what man whore I was playing at the time in a movie he was promoting. And I remember I took off her shoe just as a joke, to kind of do something, and her foot, I just ooh, that was a mistake.
Oh my God.
Hey, it was kind of, every toe had its own, God rest her soul.
Yes.
Well, I don't know who's dumber, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Whoopi, sensing that her co-host was drowning, desperately tried to change the subject, but the damage was already done. The embarrassment was too great, and Sunny's attempt to brush off her past fell flat. What made this moment even more damning was how it fit into a larger pattern of controversy for The View. This wasn't the first time the show had found itself in hot water. Over the years, The View had built a reputation for shutting down dissenting voices and relentlessly targeting conservative figures. But this time, it backfired spectacularly. Let's not forget the recent scandals, Whoopi Goldberg's tone-deaf, Holocaust remarks, the Carrie Underwood lawsuit, and The View's repeated smearing of Elon Musk.
She could have maybe done better. Okay, here's the thing. One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before. That was to me, the one thing that was missing.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's okay, now that you have this have you had any personal growth? Do you think about things differently? You have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Because when you're presented with new information, it's okay to change your mind. It's good to change your mind. But you should acknowledge that has happened.
Exactly, because if she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny. She is so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
These controversies had already led to defamation lawsuits, chipping away at The View's credibility one by one. And now, Greg Gutfeld had just delivered the biggest blow yet. ABC immediately went into full damage control mode. Executives scrambled to contain the fallout as advertisers started pulling back. Sponsors wanted no part in a show that kept landing in legal trouble, and the cracks in The View's foundation were becoming impossible to ignore.
I don't know. That's not true.
That's not true.
But you think about things that she said and how offensive they are.
Yeah.
Well, karma.
Yeah, it is karma. And that's coming from someone who's descended from the Keebler elves.
Yeah.
Ratings were already on the decline, and this latest controversy only made things worse. But here's where it got even crazier. As if Sunny's public humiliation wasn't bad enough, Greg Gutfeld's roast had real financial consequences. After the clip went viral, The View lost major sponsors, forcing ABC to reassess the show's future. Rumors began swirling. Was ABC finally going to pull the plug on The View? Would Sunny be forced out to salvage what was left of the show's reputation? And what about Whoopi, already a lightning rod for controversy? Would she be next? Insiders. Leaked reports that ABC executives were furious over how much the show had cost them in legal fees and lost sponsorships. Some advertisers were already planning to cut ties, worried that The View had become too toxic to be associated with. But the fallout wasn't over yet.
In her defense, everyone has ancestors that did unspeakably horrible things. It's just that not everyone's ancestors have records tied to their DNA about it. But I'm more worried for Sunny Hostin's progeny in the future that do a DNA test and find out that they were related to a cast member of The View. And they're like, oh, it all makes so much sense now why I'm so stupid and fat. All right. Terrible.
Here's the kicker. While The View was scrambling, Greg Gutfeld was celebrating. His late-night show saw a massive surge in viewership as fans tuned in to relive the moment. He didn't just win the argument, he dominated the entire news cycle. So what happens next? Will ABC finally cut its losses and put The View out of its misery? Will Sunny be forced to issue a public apology, or will she double down on her hypocrisy? One thing is certain, this controversy isn't going away anytime soon.
Amazing. Oh. That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years. They're turning on me. So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational pull. All right, Kat, did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart one.
Advertisers are watching closely, weighing whether the controversy will fade or if it's time to cut ties for good. Meanwhile, ABC's legal team is undoubtedly bracing for more defamation claims as lawsuits continue to pile up. Now, ABC faces a tough decision. Do they stand by The View, hoping the storm passes, or do they make drastic changes to salvage what's left of the brand? Speculation is already growing that if things don't improve, The View might suffer. The same fate as other outdated talk shows, quietly canceled and replaced with something fresher and less controversial. And then there's Sunny Hostin. Can she recover from this public embarrassment? Will she double down on her usual talking points despite the backlash, or will she be forced to take a step back and rethink her approach?
Good. Let them all. You know, I'd like to see on the View.
What?
Would be like Roseanne and like Candace right out of the gate.
Oh my!
That.
Roseanne, you know what?
Roseanne with 9mm. Just
Roseanne is the most inspired choice.
Yes.
Because she, oh my God, that would
She'd be a monster.
Yeah, she would eat them alive. Or they would eat her.
Yeah.
That is true, though. You know, Kat, think about that choice. Like, would any sane person want that job at The View? Let's say you weren't working here, and they approached you, and they said, we need, like, and you're not a Trumper, but let's say they wanted, like, an opposing perspective.
Well, just any kind of opposing perspective, right? Because the concern, I mean, it's there's no argument anymore on The View, right? I don't know why you'd want, I don't know why you'd want it.
Yeah, they'd have to pay you a lot of money.
But I was going to say...
The View is at a crossroads, and the decisions made in the coming weeks will shape its future. While the show has weathered scandals before, this time, the damage might be too great to overcome. Advertisers are hesitant, and viewers are more skeptical than ever.
Okay? So it's not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. Mm-hmm. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because she was being attacked. So the problem is that you have to go after the racist people. And if the CEO goes, you know what? I'm not going to allow a woman on my show or man that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's.
The media landscape is shifting, and The View is feeling the impact. Greg Gutfeld delivered a masterclass in exposing hypocrisy, and now the show is paying the price. Whether this marks the beginning of the end for The View or just another chapter in its long history of controversy, one thing is certain: the balance of power in media is changing, and The View is no longer untouchable. What do you think about Gutfeld's remarks on The View? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. I'll see you in the next one.